I was recently visiting with a woman whose mother had died. I was going to be conducting the funeral, and so I was sitting down with the daughter, and I said, "Tell me about your mom. Tell me what you'll remember about her. Tell me what you loved about her. Tell me stories about her life." And she did, and she shared a lot. And I'd like to share one of the stories that she shared with me with you. It was of a time when her mother was younger, like late teens, early 20s, and her house was broken into. And they took a number of things, and one of the things that they realized that the thief had taken was a very nice lock box, a box that had a lock on it that was in her bedroom. But the daughter was telling me that when her mom realized that the box had been taken, had been stolen, she started laughing. And I said, "Why did she start laughing?" And the daughter said, "Because of what was in the box." And I asked, of course, what was in the box? She said, "Well, her father died when she was 11 years old. That's not worth laughing about, but her father had a glass eye." And she said, "My mom kept her dad's glass eye in the lockbox. That's the only thing that was in the lockbox." And so the reason she started laughing was because she pictured these thieves thinking that they had found something very valuable that was going to be worth a lot to them, breaking into the box, going to the effort to break the lock, break into the box, opening it up and seeing a glass eye looking at them. She laughed because she anticipated that they were going to be very surprised by what was inside that box, and not in a very good way. I'm telling you that story because at the end of Psalm 21, David reminds us that there's a group of people that's going to be surprised, much bigger surprise at the end of the day. They're going to be surprised one day, and the group of people that's going to be surprised one day in a very negative way are all the people who are opposing God. And we see that in the world. It can be very discouraging to turn on the TV, to turn on the news, to watch politics, to watch public influencers, and even just to look around our own hometowns and sometimes even our families and friends and see a lot of people who hate God and are speaking so strongly against God and godly things, and that can discourage us. But David reminds us that one day those who continue to oppose God, they're going to be surprised by how much God was paying attention to them the whole time, and how much God cares about justice, right and wrong, sin and obedience, and they'll be surprised in some ways that won't be very pleasant for them. He says that one day God's hand is going to lay hold of all of his enemies. He will seize all of them. God will make them like a fiery furnace. The Lord will swallow them up. His fire will consume them. He will destroy their descendants from the earth. They won't be able to plot evil against anyone anymore. They will not succeed. They won't succeed. Just keep that in mind when you see something that discourages you, when you start to worry about the state of the world and what various leaders are doing or saying or not saying. We get to look at those things from the perspective of, well, that's a little bit bigger and a little bit longer than the one that we typically have with our own eyes. We get to look from the perspective that God has from eternity, that they're not going to get the best of God. They're not going to get the best of God's children. We can settle down a little bit and rest easy at night knowing that God sees it too, and he cares. And he cares about you. And in the end, everybody will see that. Everybody will see that. God's enemies will be surprised. They can be pretty bold in the moment, but they won't be bold then. But they won't be the only ones who will be surprised on that day. You and I will too. But in a different way, for a different reason. I was recently at a groundbreaking celebration for a new church. And it was raining, so we weren't able to be outside to actually break the ground, so we crammed everybody, about 70 people, into this tiny little house. And everybody was soaking wet. Not everybody, but most people were soaking wet because the rain was coming down so hard, so heavy, that even coming from your vehicle into the building, you were just going to get drenched. But everybody was excited to be there. They were excited for the moment, excited for the project, what was going on. And we had a little service, a little ceremony, and one of the things that we did was sing a song together, and we were planning to sing the song Amazing Grace. And so I was up front. I was helping out with the music along with my son, and he started playing he started playing, and then it was time for everybody to sing, and being up in front in the group of 70 people all crammed into there, very excited about what was going on. The sound of everybody letting loose on this very familiar and well-loved hymn was like bone shaking to me in a very, very good way. I can still feel it as I'm talking about it right now. It was incredible. It was so much more than I was expecting. And it was wonderful. David alludes to a moment like that. That's coming in your future too. It's something that'll surprise you in a wonderful, bone-shaking, soul-strengthening kind of way. In the very last verse of Psalm 21, he says, "Be exalted, O Lord, in your strength. We will sing and praise your might." And I imagine that's going to be quite the experience. The Bible talks about us singing around the throne of the Lamb. In our first moment in the new heavens and the new earth, where we all let loose in a song that we all know and our hearts have really all known from the beginning. Well, I think we'll be surprised. In a way that'll just be perfect and powerful and wonderful and comforting and everything. The kind of thing that only a good and loving and powerful and gracious God could bring out of us and create. So we'll be surprised too. And I'll be glad to be there with you. Rest well tonight, my friends.